Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie. Today it's the end of September. It's a beautiful day, although it has been in the upper 80s. I think we hit 87 degrees today, and this entire week has been in the mid to upper 80s, which is very, very unusual for Utah where I live. We've had an extremely hot summer, and that has been perfect for one of my vegetables. Let me show you which one that is. This right here is my sweet potato bed. I've got a couple of flowers growing in it. But if you notice, the sweet potatoes are actually starting to turn a little yellow and the leaves are changing color, which from what I've read, that means it's time to harvest. Now, I've grown sweet potatoes in the past. This is my third year growing them. The first year I had a really good harvest, but we never got to the point where the leaves were starting to change color. Last year I grew them in this bed over here where the remainder of my squash is. Looking worse for the wear, but we do have a few zucchini left, so I'm going to leave it for a few more days. But I grew the sweet potatoes in this bed, and they didn't do well at all. Now, I think the difference was that this bed right here has regular topsoil in it, and it's pretty dense. It's hard to dig into, and I think it was just too dense for the sweet potatoes. Now, there are so many vines, it's really hard to access the soil underneath right now, but this bed is really loose. This isn't topsoil, this is a mix that I do. It's 1/3 peat, 1/3 compost, and 1/3 vermiculite. There's a little bit of perlite in there also because I dump potting soil in here. So this bed is really loose. It was able to stay quite wet most of the summer, and we had a very hot summer. So I'm excited to see what we get out of here. Now, the first thing that I'm going to need to do is to cut back all of this foliage. Sweet potato vines are supposed to be edible. I'm not going to eat them. I'm just going to put them in my compost bin. And the variety that this is actually called red ivy leaf. I purchased these from, I can't remember the name. I'll put the name where I purchased these down below. But I purchased them 3 years ago, and then since that point I've started my own slips off the sweet potatoes that I've grown. So these slips were started earlier this year out of my leftover sweet potatoes. They lasted throughout the year. Then I put the sweet potatoes in a pot with soil in it, laid the sweet potatoes on top, and kept them really wet. They started to sprout, and once they would sprout, and it got about that long, I would pull them off, stick them in a glass of water, and let them root, and then I put them in pots. In the past, I would just plant those slips, and they seemed to have a really difficult time rooting outside in the garden. It worked, but they really had a difficult time. This time they did really well. There was no wilting when I put them in the garden, and they took off. So we're going to see if that helped me get larger sweet potatoes. Another thing to remember when growing sweet potatoes is they do not like nitrogen. Nitrogen just gives them a lot of green growth, and it doesn't let the tubers get really big. So let's see if we did it correctly this time, and let's see if we actually get some good sized sweet potatoes. We don't know, but we'll try it and see. Now that most of the vines are gone, we get to start the fun part, and this is the treasure hunt. So let's look at the first one and see if we actually got anything this year. Now, just so you can see, when I cut back the vines, I left a little bit of a stub so that I could tell where they were planted. So let's dig around this first one. So I'm going to feel, oh my word, look what I see already. We have a sweet potato. Let's dig around it. Let's dig around it and be careful. Oh, darn it. It's not huge, but it's a sweet potato. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm feeling stuff. You can see a little bit of something. I've got another one down here. So they're not huge. I hope this isn't a best of harvest. So I've got 2. Got a little guy right there. It's a funny looking one. Tiny guy. Long skinny one. This guy. Okay, I hope this isn't a disappointing sweet potato year. Hopefully they got bigger than this. Okay. Another disappointing one. Better than the other ones though, which is really sad to say that that's better. So here's the next little area. Dang it, I was hoping for large sweet potatoes this year. I may have to change varieties. So this is it. I mean, they are not big. There are a lot of them, but they're tiny. So unfortunately, this is probably the biggest one that I got. It really makes me sad. I'll show you a picture of the biggest one that I harvested on my first year. So I think I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to give up on sweet potatoes or if I'm just going to try another variety for next year. And that's probably what I'll end up doing. I am determined to have a good crop of sweet potatoes. Now, I would love to hear what your thoughts are. What helps with sweet potatoes? Like I said, we were in the hundreds for a lot of the summer. This area stayed moist. The soil feels really wet. Well, the soil feels really moist, but not too wet. It's not sloppy. It gets full sun. I planted them in June, and this is the beginning of October. Now, the reason I harvested them is because the city is going to be turning off our water. So I'm going to have to hand water everything, and I didn't have the time to hand water. And like I showed you, the leaves were starting to change color, so I assumed they were ready. So I would love suggestions on varieties. Just let me know if you live in the same kind of climate that I do, and if you have success with sweet potatoes, and if so, what varieties do you use? So hopefully this video was helpful for you. If it was helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.